Welcome to the NBA DFS build. It is February 15th. This is a nice three-game slate. I'm Kevin Roberts, joined with Taylor Smith. We're going to break this thing down game by game, hopefully not take up too much of your time considering it is just 3 games. Boy, what a switch it is from yesterday's 12-gamer. Ridiculous. But yeah, we're going to try to help you out here. This video is sponsored by DFS Hero. Really nice, versatile lineup optimizer with a lot of features that can help you get a GPP takedown. Right now, you can get off 15% when you sign up using our link. You can catch that in the video description below us right here. All right, let's dive right in. 3 games, Taylor. Should be a fun one. Also, it's going to be horrible based off of last night. But you know what? We always talk about these massive slates, like a Big 12 gamer. And initially, it's so cool because there's so many different ways to go. But then we're like, fucking 12 games, man. Fucking 12 games. Because if you have too many ways to go, then just shit hits the fan and it goes crazy. So I'm actually looking very forward to a nice 3-gamer here. How about you?
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. We did get some news on Memphis, still waiting on Anthony Edwards and maybe some stuff from like Utah and Golden State when they release their injury reports, but we shall see. It'll probably be a mess. Doesn't start till 8:30 Eastern either, so deep into the night.
Hey, good point on Memphis. Jaren Jackson Jr., that's pretty huge. He is doubtful along with John Conchar, so that's actually really interesting. We'll get to that in just a second here. Right away, let's start off with the Bucks and Grizz. The Bucks are on the road, but they are 13-point road favorites, which probably tells us Giannis and company are playing. Giannis, for what it's worth, is probable along with Dame Lillard. This game does have a 224 total. Memphis tends to score like 80 points each game, so it's not looking great for them. But the Bucks, we really don't know what to do with the Bucks lately because they're either getting their asses kicked or they're blowing someone out. So probably a blowout to be expected here. Anyway, starting on Milwaukee side, you got Giannis up top. Are you just locking him in? And how do you feel about the rest of the Bucks?
I don't think I would lock anyone in. Certainly not someone that's almost 12K. He's obviously a great play now that we have more Memphis value. He's going to stand out. He's going to be quite popular. He's certainly the top overall play on the slate. Not too expensive. Looks phenomenal. Don't really have much else to say about him. The issue is the rest of the team. I guess Brook Lopez for 5'7" looks solid. Doesn't have much of a ceiling, but fairly consistent minutes. Matchup solid against short-handed Memphis team that doesn't protect the paint anyway, even with Jaren Jackson. And without him, Giannis figures to have a field day. Lopez looks okay. Lillard's been awful. I don't think his salary's come down enough to reflect his overall quality of performance. It's a 3-game slate, though, so I can see getting to him like as a Giannis kind of leverage pivot. And otherwise, there's not much here. I guess Jay Crowder maybe has a value with Chris Middleton out, but overall, not the most alluring team, even on a tiny slate.
Well, I would probably go against that a little bit. I would probably lock in Giannis personally. It's a 3-game slate. I'm only going to do one lineup because fuck yesterday to hell. So if Giannis has the highest ceiling by far, I'm just going to pay for him, I think. Although I will note, I do agree with the leverage possibility with Dame. The only thing is, if ownership sticks where it is now to any degree, where Dame's carrying 20+% ownership, I don't like that at all. If he's going to be under owned like 10%, then Dame starts looking interesting at 8.9 as a leverage play. Everybody else is just kind of there. Jay Crowder, they have been involved in some blowouts, but he's losing his role, it seems. But you can look at him or Pat Connaughton, but it's not really friendly out there. So I'd be looking for other value, but mostly it's Giannis or bust for me with the Bucks. On the other side is Memphis. The big question, obviously, is can they keep it close, especially without Jaren Jackson Jr., because I'm assuming with him being doubtful, he's not going to play. Luke Kennard is also questionable, by the way, and then Conchar is obviously doubtful. Derrick Rose is out. Scottie Pippen Jr. is out, and all the other guys that have been missing are also out. So a lot of usage to go around here. Let me know who you like the most based off of that news, and also,
It's kind of a mess. Gilliard was out last night. I assume he'll be in tonight. Same with Gigi Jackson. Jackson looks good at 4.9. I think Trey Jemison, assuming he starts at center for 3.5, looks like maybe the best play on the whole slate, which is pretty gross, but 3 games, so not many options out there, and he's a great value. Lamar Stevens, he played 20 minutes or so last night. Almost all of them were in the second half, and he crushed. Not really sure what to make of that. He's 3-4. I assume he played his way into more minutes tonight, maybe more steady minutes with
no JJJ, so
Triple J out. Yeah.
So now he's gonna get DNP.
Now he's gonna get like 8.
Yeah,
like people are gonna play him, and he's not gonna do anything. But
for sure.
Jordan Goodwin looks pretty interesting with Pippen and Rose out. There are minutes in the backcourt to go around. He played last night. He's been pretty good per minute over the past couple of years. So don't think he's a bad play either. Not sure how popular he will be off the bench, but looks like a solid differentiator IMO. And Vince Williams just playing steady minutes every night. He's been solid per minute. Should be more usage without all these other injured Grizzlies out. So 6.5 is not cheap for Vince Williams, but I don't mind that if he's going to go overlooked.
Yeah, I think it's just a fine play. I think like relative to the slate, he looks good, but I like to sometimes think on these really small slates, like, would I really have interest in Vince Williams if we had a few more games added to this? Not really, because he doesn't project amazingly. However, that was before I learned that JJJ was probably out of this game. So without JJJ, Vince Williams at 6.5 looks pretty good. Santi Aldama looks totally fine at 5.9. Honestly, you could talk yourself into a lot of different Grizzlies, maybe even a Grizz stack, and just hope that this potentially avoided game ends up being close. And that would kind
Aldama did lose minutes. Like, he's the one that got benched in favor of Stevens last night. So
yeah, but with JJJ,
to know what to make of that.
I know, but I wouldn't be as concerned with JJJ out. By the way, I'm going to just take a stand right now. Stevens in a vacuum at 3.4 with JJJ out is a fine play, but I will fade the shit out of him because there's no way. There's no way. 2 games in a row? No.
Especially if he's going to be owned, which
I
assume
he's
he will
absolutely going to be owned now, 100%. So, yes, you can play Lamar Stevens if you want to, but I'm not going to. I don't care. Okay, so and Luke Kennard at 4.8, he looks pretty appealing with those point guards out.
If he's out, then Goodwin becomes even more alluring, I think, right?
Oh, yeah, because Kennard is questionable. If he's in, I like Kennard at 4.8. If he's out, I think Goodwin is like borderline core play, in my opinion. Because there's 3 main guards out. Who's the other guard he's fighting for?
Gilliard.
Yeah, Gilliard. Okay, so yeah, Goodwin looks awesome. So I'm looking at Vince as a safe play. I'm looking at Kennard if he's in, and I'm loving Goodwin if he's out, and Lamar Stevenson can go to hell. Okay, moving on to the Warriors and Jazz in Utah. This game is a little bit interesting because the Warriors are at risk of sitting some of their vets because they did play last night. We know Chris Paul won't play, and everybody else, I mean, for now we can assume they're in, but I would just keep an eye on that. And that would obviously open up usage. By the way, this game does have a really nice 240 total on this tiny 3-game slate. It is the most stackable game. So, Taylor, I assume you have some interest in some dubs on this slate.
Yeah, I don't think they'll sit anyone just because they lost yesterday. I think they're kind of desperate to kind of right the ship. So I do think they'll play. If they sit anyone, I assume it would be Thompson because he's also bad. So any excuse to get Pajemski more minutes. Yeah, Draymond, Kuminga look really good. Kind of the same thing with them every slate. They're not really overpriced for the roles. Perhaps they go a little overlooked with people paying down for Memphis value, paying up for Giannis at power forward. Kuminga could slip through the cracks as a result, potentially, but it is only 3 games, so it's not like he's going to be unowned. Curry, he's been a bit of a heater lately. Was pretty good. Don't mind going to him. Wiggins for 5.1 maybe looks better if Thompson's out. Pajemski for 6.1. I don't mind as a differentiator too, like kind of in the Vince Williams frame. He's not necessarily too expensive or too cheap, but off the bench, he could see kind of a wide range of outcomes. Don't mind taking shots on guys like that in tournaments, especially on a short slate.
Yeah, I think Curry looks really good. This is a really good spot for everybody across the board. Utah does not play good defense. This is going to be a fast-paced game. Curry has a 20% boom rating at DFS Hero. Draymond Green has a 23% boom rating. I mean, I'm surprised their boom ratings aren't higher. This is a tight spread, best total of the slate. Podziemski at his current ownership looks very appealing. That's why I would hope Clay just is in. So, I mean, Clay coming in at 20% is weird to me. I would not ever do that with Clay at that much ownership. So I really like Pod here at 6.1 and even more. I mean, he looks, obviously he's going to be a better play if Clay is out, but I want lower ownership on that play. So I hope Clay stays in. But yeah, Dre and Kuminga look awesome. Kuminga's price has come down inexplicably, but he has a nice ceiling, and even better, he has a really nice floor. So this is not a tough matchup whatsoever. I prefer Kuminga to Green just because he's going to be lower owned, and I think he actually offers a little bit more of a ceiling because he can, actually score. So yeah, I think both are really good plays. I think stacking the Warriors makes a lot of sense here. On the other side, you got Utah. It's not exactly a bad matchup for the Jazz either. Markkanen leads the team with a 40-point projection for the slate. Keontae George leads with a 27% boom rating, and I'm sure you're going to be interested in him at a 4.7 price tag. So, Taylor, for the Utah side, who stands out?
Yeah, George stands out. As of now, he looks like the chalkiest player on the slate, which is probably not going to stand. Once the Memphis stuff updates, I assume we'll kind of see ownership shift a little bit. I'm not looking at updated projections yet, so we shall see. He's going to still be popular, though, 4-7. Minutes have been up, starting for Utah. Good game environment, the whole thing. Kessler also looks pretty good. He's been starting since they made a trade at the deadline. Minutes have been up, still not like super high, but upper 20s is a lot better than what he had before the deadline. So still looks like a decent buy low at 5-6. You can kind of pay up to be different with Sexton and Collins. I don't know, like they could fall behind Kuminga or Memphis guys or someone else in the mid-range here. They don't look great. I do think Taylor Hendricks or Talen Horton-Tucker look like interesting kind of pivots away from Lamar Stevens if he's going to be popular. They have similar ranges of outcomes. These guys are not going to get any ownership at all, I wouldn't think. Rather than eating really shaky chalk with Stevens, I don't mind kind of a dart throw with Hendricks or THT.
Yeah, that's an interesting call for sure. The only problem is Utah is fully healthy. You just never really know what they're going to do with the rotation in general, let alone with those fringe guys there. I will say, though, that Markkanen, Sexton, Collins, and Kessler all average over a fantasy point per minute. So while the roles are not exactly airtight, these guys are all very good DFS plays in the best DFS environment of the slate. So I like them all just fine. Keontae is hands down the easiest lock of the slate for me. I don't really care about ownership at all. He's too cheap. He's starting again. He does a little bit of everything. He's got one of the best matchups on the board. The Warriors are 29th against point guards on the year. So obviously, like Markkanen, he's the safest Utah play. But there's going to be other options right in that same price range that might feel a little bit better, especially if Anthony Edwards is ruled out. I mean, Edwards is also one of the other options if he's in, but then you have Cat at like 7.7. So I like Markkanen. I love this game. But I would be looking to save money with Utah, not necessarily spend up. All right, last game of the slate. It is a tiny one. Like we said, we got Timberwolves against the Blazers, the second game of this slate that is very likely going to be a blowout. Timberwolves coming in with a 9.5-point spread. They are favored on the road. And this game has a really disgusting 215.5 total. Obviously, Minnesota has very good defense, so the Blazers aren't really a good bet to put up a ton of points. But for Minnesota, they are not sure if they'll have Anthony Edwards. He did participate in shoot-around, but he is questionable, and he had complained about right knee soreness. So I would imagine on a back-to-back, they played last night, right?
No.
Oh, they did not? Well, even so. Right before the All-Star break, I would imagine they would seriously consider sitting him. So anyway, starting with Edwards, how do you feel about the Wolves?
Yeah, Edwards looks good, 8-7. Don't mind that. Portland's a good matchup, obviously. Mike Conley, definitely a short slate value that looks better than he would on last night's slate, for example. I don't ever love him, though. He doesn't really have a ceiling. He tends to get ownership at these cheap salaries. So even on the short slate, I would prefer to do something else.
Pretty good floor, though.
What was that?
Pretty good floor, though. He's pretty consistently getting you like 25 to 30.
Yeah, like he's fine. I just, you know, Luke Kennard maybe could be an alternative to that, depending on his ownership and availability. But We shall see. I think Nas Reed looks like a really good value. Not sure what his ownership will be, but the minutes aren't as safe as some of these Memphis guys will be potentially, but we've seen Reed off the bench still offer upside, and if the game blows out, I think that benefits him in particular. Towns and Gobert always look pretty good. Towns obviously will get a bump if Edwards is out. Gobert either way is fine. Not a big usage guy to begin with. Jaden McDaniels, 3-6. Looks like he's going to pull ownership after making 0 shots in his last game. He just has no ceiling, it appears, at all, but he is cheap. So I understand it. Matchup's good, but not the most comfortable value, especially at ownership.
Yeah, I don't really want to roster Jaden McDaniels. He is cheap, but he has not cleared 20 fantasy points in any of his last 7 games. Ugh. It is a great spot. He does tend to get good run. All those minutes lately have been shaky as hell. 19, 25, 24. Not great. But yeah, it's a tiny slate. He does provide value. I won't tell you not to play him, but I might not. Edwards at the top looks good. If he's in, if he's not, Cat and Rudy and Conley all look awesome and would probably be core plays for me. Maybe not Rudy necessarily because he's not the scorer that Cat is, but probably would still lean towards wanting to play him. Nas Reed at 4.6 is a pretty good value, and Kyle Anderson looks like a smash play if Edwards is out. You can play Kyle Anderson anyways at 3.5. He's too cheap at this point because he does have a role. Let's see what's he been doing lately. He's getting 20 plus minutes and he's putting up 20 fantasy points because as we know, he is that awesome point forward guy. He just does a little bit of everything. So he's very, very playable. And on the off chance they end up sitting Mike Conley before the All-Star break, Monte Morris looks pretty interesting at 3K flat. By the way, can't hate if Anthony Edwards ends up being ruled out. But as it looks like, we might get a full strength Timberwolves team, which means we could be in trouble here with another blowout. So with that in mind, how are you feeling about the Blazers?
They look pretty bad overall. They always do, though. Like, they seem to have a full complement available tonight. I guess Brogdon's out. So, Simons and Scoot are going to see most of the minutes, but matchup stinks. Delano Banton is another punt you can consider. He's been playing off the bench. With Brogdon out, he's cheap. Historically, he's been okay per minute dating back to his Toronto days. Not a comfortable value again, but another alternative to consider if, like we said many times already, Lamar Stevens gets ownership. I'm happy to pivot away from that. DeAndre Ayton's been crushing the last 3 games. I don't know what to make of that. His usage has been way up. He normally gets very little of that. Feels like a chase, but 7-3, maybe a pivot off of Gobert you can consider. Don't think anyone's going to play him in a tough matchup like that. Jeremy Grant, too, fine in the mid-range. Don't love it. Tumani Kamara, another punt you can consider. Like, there are guys you can play. None of them look like priorities, but I don't mind looking here as kind of a differentiator in an otherwise chalky build.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to go down with the ship on this one and say I love the Blazers tonight because it's a small slate and they are not going to be owned. It's not a good matchup at all, but they are at home. And if Edwards is out or if the Wolves randomly see anybody else, that would help them a little bit. But even so, there's not a lot of easy ways to get different that you'd actually feel good about. But as long as the game stays close, Simons, Jeremy Grant, and DeAndre Ayton are suddenly high usage guys with a lot better ceiling than their projection or matchup would indicate. And they're, like I said, they're not going to be very owned with Giannis on the slate and Curry out there and everybody gravitating towards the Warriors and Jazz game. To be fair, rightfully so. It is the best game environment. It absolutely could be a situation where I'm just getting too cute. But on a tiny slate, I want to be considerably different than everybody else. So I'm definitely looking at a couple of these guys. Simons looks awesome with his usage, only 12% owned. Dude, DeAndre Ayton, what the hell? He is just wrecking lately. And I don't think it is that chasey, by the way. I mean, I don't like the price or the matchup at all. I will admit that. But 7% owned for a dude that has put up 40-plus fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games. I mean, he's feeling it, man. He's out there and he's crushing. And by the way, the last team he faced, Minnesota, at home, who he dropped 45 fantasy points on.
He shot 11 for 12.
I know, but he ate Rudy's lunch. 16 rebounds, 22 points. I mean, what if he's just like a new dude and he's out here crushing? So if he's going to be unowned, like you don't have to friggin' stack the Blazers here. You can just go play unowned Ayton to end the slate, and that could be awesome. That could be like all the difference you need on this slate. So for that reason, I am a bit interested in them. And like you said, Banton doesn't feel good, but if Scoot Henderson's out at 3.7, you can do a lot worse. That is a nice like Stevens pivot down in the utility spot, if you ask me. And Tumani Kamara is also fine. I am not playing with T. Thibault, never again. But yeah, that does it for the game by game breakdown here. Real quick before we close up shop, let's look at the chalkiest players across the slate. Number 1 is Keontae George. I'm in full agreement with that. I'm eating that chalk. I think like the Draymond chalk, you could like leverage and play Kuminga over Dre. If you're stacking that game, you're probably just playing them both. Is there anybody else that you're looking at besides Keontae or Draymond that you're like really confident that you're building around tonight?
Trey Jemison, I guess, for Memphis. Assuming he starts at center, 3-5, I will likely play a lot of them.
Yeah, if he starts, hard to go against that for sure with JJJ out. All right, as far as the big boom ratings go, there we go. Keontae again, Draymond there too. Is there anybody else? Oh, I'm sorry. When I was looking at the usage, I meant to ask you, is there anybody else that's coming as major chalk that you are going to fade? Now we already know who you're going to build around, but who are you going to fade tonight?
Lamar Stevens, Mike Conley, 2 guys that stand out, assuming they'll be owned, that I do not want to have a ton of.
Yeah, I think up top, I might entertain fading. I might entertain fading Stephen Curry, because I plan on paying for Giannis, and then I might close the slate with some Wolves or Blazers. So I just think I might eat some of the cheaper guys in the Jazz Warriors game and hope that Curry doesn't go off for like the 5th game in a row or whatever. All right, that is going to do it for us. It is a small slate, so we just went a bit over 20 minutes. My bad. That's on me. Anyways, thanks for watching. We appreciate all the views, all subscribers, and hopefully we're helping you out along the way. If we do, please give this video a like, and if you don't already subscribe, please consider doing so you can get alerted for future videos. Thanks for tuning in, and we wish you luck.